Okay, I received some questions about these cases, these server cases here. There were two of them, and I figured that today we'll actually go ahead and take a look at them. And yes, I know that somebody is going to point out that I've received more questions about those compact Macs back there. There's two of them. One of them's kind of hidden right now. And, yes, there is indeed even an iMac hiding out back there that I still have not made a video of. In fact, I powered it on once when I got it, like 6 months ago, and it's been sitting out here ever since. They'll come eventually, but these, right here, are more in the way than those. So my end goal is to hopefully have this cleared out within the next couple of weeks. I guess we'll find out if that actually happens, but we've got to take a look at these first. I'm going to take a look at them as is. I do have plans for one of them. I don't know what the other one's going to do just yet, but I'm sure I'll find something for it to do. These are, if I remember the build sheet correctly, these are iStar USA cases. They are, I think you'd call this 2U. It's not quite 1U. I know it's bigger than 1U. I believe that this is a 2U rack mount case. It did have rack mount ears on it, but I did not have the mating ears that would go into a server rack, and I also have got suspicions that these are a non-standard size, and they would have went to a special rack. Like a lot of other things, these came from work. They were actually used as part of a massive, like I think it was something like a 40 or 45 node rack of these things. It won't mean anything to anybody, but the cluster was called Epsilon, so I'll probably call these Epsilon machines at some point in this video. So if you're wondering what that is, that's what they used to be. That's the name of the cluster that they came from. These were the only two that were left, and they were sitting in a rack of stuff that's due to be decommissioned, or has been decommissioned, or should be decommissioned, I guess. And as it turns out, the owners of these machines, because technically they were actually supposed to be reactivated when we moved all that equipment, which, again, that predates me, but when that equipment was moved, they should have been reactivated, and they never were. And ultimately, I guess it didn't matter, because they haven't been used in probably about 10 years anyway. So what they are is nothing great. Again, like I said, if I remember what the build sheet said correctly, these are made by iStar USA, the case anyway. They're pretty decent rack mount cases. You can see there, it's just a CD-ROM and a floppy drive. There's who built it. And of course, Pentium 4. Power supply is actually right there in the front, and it's got a filter, which is pretty neat. Of course, there's your power switch, and also a reset. And these are momentary switches. So, that's what we have going on there in the front. My camera is running out of batteries, so this could be short-lived. Both of these are exactly the same, so I'm not going to bother showing the other one. Neither one has an expansion card installed. In the slots there, you can see you get two slots. There is, of course, the motherboard itself with audio, two USB, Ethernet, VGA serial parallel, two more USB ports, and your PS2. There's a power input and a fan. So this does have thumb screws. Wow, my battery's really running out. I don't know why, that's really kind of interesting. I have 1 minute, it says. Am I even going to be able to get 1 minute worth of video on this? Hopefully. It's not like this is the only camera that I've got sitting out here, so not a big deal. Oh, change the battery pack, it says. So the video will probably abruptly stop here in a second, but I'll try and get this done. See if we can pull the cover. It just kind of lifts off to reveal the magic within. And there's definitely some magic within. We'll go ahead and we'll take a look here. There's two fans. There's a large one at the back there. Sorry, a large one at the side and a small one at the back. I think the small one is about a 60mm fan. That's an 80, maybe a 92. There's the power supply. It's actually an Antec power supply. And believe it or not, no, it wouldn't be standard. It can't it can't be standard because most of them wouldn't have that on the front. I don't know what the rating is because it doesn't really say anything on it. I imagine that's either on the other side of the power supply or on the bottom of the power supply, and I'm not pulling that power supply just to find out what the ratings are. So, it's got a case speaker there, which is not even plugged in, which I find kind of amusing. There's a light-on CD-ROM drive, model LTN 526S. You can look up the capabilities of that if you wish. Manufacture date, January of 2003. So yeah, these are not new by any stretch of the imagination. The motherboard's got an onboard squeaker, so it doesn't really matter. There's the backup battery. It's an Intel board, model D845GERG2, or potentially a D845PECE. Kind of interesting. All the capacitors look like they're good, which is something somewhat amazing. Socket 478. That fan is no good. You can hear the bearings already. That's not ECC memory, but it looks like it actually has 2 gigs of RAM, which is not too bad. Each of those sticks will be 1 gig. For a Pentium 4, that camera died, so I guess now we're going to be doing this in moderate low light, which is going to be probably entertaining. I don't remember what I was talking about. I think I was talking about 2 gigs of RAM there, maybe the motherboard model. This does, of course, use a P4 power connector and a 20-pin. It's got IDE. There's no serial ATA. This would predate that. It does have AGP, as well as 3 PCI, and this case has got a little riser on it, which, interestingly, as you can see, was manufactured by Ablytech Corporation, model GH200, copyright 1999, and for some reason, it actually has ISA on it, which I didn't think you could actually do. Maybe that's what this PCI link is for, I don't know. But that's definitely kind of interesting that this has ISA. I wonder if that would actually even be active on a system like this. Everything else is pretty standard. This is basically, I'm kind of surprised to see just an off-the-shelf desktop-style motherboard in a server like this, because the company that built this certainly has built us some pretty hefty servers before, but then again, back in those days, there wasn't really much of a difference between servers and desktops unless you wanted to get into multi-processor systems, and those certainly started to run you a pretty penny. So, and when you got 45 of them, I mean, I guess you don't really need anything too great. You know, consumer-grade hardware that may or may not necessarily have as high of an MTBF, mean time between failure, as server-grade hardware. I guess it doesn't really matter because you can just swap it out for another one pretty quickly. Anyway, it's got an 80 gigabyte hard drive. So, I know I will have to wipe that. So I'm going to cable this up, fire it up. We'll see what it can do, and then once we've figured all that out, I'll get the other one out, and we'll figure out what it does. But I'd imagine that the two of them are probably going to be basically exactly the same. I'll run this one with the cover off, and then I'll run the other one with the cover on. Guess we'll get to find out how much noise it makes. Okay, I've plugged in the cables, even including a mouse, even though I think it'll have limited utility in a server, but whatever. I'm kind of shocked that I don't think this doesn't have auto power on. That or it's dead. Which it looks like it might be dead. So, that's interesting. Did I plug in the right cable? I'm not sure. I'm pretty sure that it's plugged in. So I don't see a standby LED on the motherboard either. So that's interesting. Huh. Neat. I don't know what I was expecting, but that was not it. I don't know, dude. Because here's the second one, and it doesn't work either. So I'm going to try hooking up the power supply directly to the AC line. I don't think it'll make a difference, but you never know. Watch it blow up now. Yeah. No difference in that. So, I don't know, maybe what I'll do is I might just grab another power supply and see if I can get it to work. This is almost a standard ATX power supply. It might not be ATX, it might have a different screw pattern on the back of it. But then again, it might also be ATX. No, that's definitely in there a little bit differently. So I don't know how that's actually installed there. I'd have to look. I mean, maybe it is, and you pull off that vent cover on the front. So I'm kind of interested in that both of them are dead in exactly the same way. Probably capacitors. I know that Antec power supplies are known for that. So what I'll do is I'll see if I can find something, just some random power supply here, and I'll plug it in. I'm not going to plug in the hard drive, or maybe I will actually plug in the hard drive, which means I'm going to need a slightly older power supply that's got, it's got the 12-volt connectors, the Molex connectors on it. I don't know if I've got one of those laying around. I'll have to look. Okay. I've got this very much hot wired right now. Let's see what happens. Yeah, just like I thought. F2 to run setup. That CPU fan is terrible. And I think that is the only fan in here that's actually even working at all. Fan in the power supply doesn't sound too great either. This is a Pentium 4, 2.66 gigahertz, with 2 gigs of RAM. And look at that. I don't believe it. The battery is good. I don't know if somebody kept up the maintenance on that or what. But, yeah, that's impressive, actually. Oops. Hardware monitoring. This is just a standard Intel motherboard. Ooh, 15 degrees. Yeah, probably because that fan's not really working all that well. Although, it's warmed up a little bit, and maybe it's working a little bit better now. But, yeah, it looks like I'm going to be finding some power supplies. Maybe it's about to explode, I have no idea. Yeah, you can see it's moving faster now. So this probably isn't going to do much. Well, I know it isn't going to do much because the hard drive's not plugged in, but there you go. Okay, as I expected, that was a pain. I don't even know if I actually got it or not. I can't hear it over the noise of that CPU fan. There's a solid light on the front, so I'm kind of wondering about that. Yeah, I don't think I did. Okay. I definitely did, because I powered it up and muted the fan when I did so. And it did spin up. That doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to work. I'm kind of wondering why it's not doing anything. Oh, now it's doing something. CentOS. Pretty old version. Not sure why the hard drive LED is stuck on solid either. Oh, actually it's not that old. It's only CentOS 6. I guess that is kind of old though. I think they're at CentOS 9 or something. Or CentOS 7. I don't remember. I know that CentOS is not really made anymore. But, yeah, like I said, I imagine that both of these are probably the same. So it's kind of too bad about the power supplies. I might see how difficult it is to get one of those out of this case. And then take it apart, see how difficult it is to recap it, because I imagine that's probably what's wrong with it. That it needs capacitors. Oh, that looks good. Look away from it for 2 seconds and something wrong is gone. Something has gone wrong. Is that a memory issue, or...? No, that's a video issue. Somehow I'm not surprised. It's got onboard video. Intel video. I don't know that I care enough to really do anything with it. I wonder if I can press and hold it to turn it off. Yeah, that'll work. So, that's pretty much endgame for that. They're definitely both going to need some work. I don't know how much effort I really want to put into either of them, because I'm sure I could source a power supply. It's just that seems like that might be a little bit more work than I really want to put into this, because they've only got 2 hard drive bays. And a lot of this bay here is taken up with the power cables. So really they've only got 1 hard drive bay. So it's arguable how useful they are. And you know, because they've got their PCI only, there's not a lot of things I've got that have got 2 PCI slots that I want to put into some kind of practical use. So, I don't know. I guess we'll see. But for now, that's the story as concerns these systems. Mostly failed, but at least we did get to see one of them powered up and running. So, some assembly required. Maybe we'll do some work on these, maybe we won't. I don't know yet. Thank you for watching. If you have any comments, feel free to leave them down below.